Hi everyone. Today we're going to be reading Survival at 120 Above. So if you have this book in your home library, pause the video and go ahead and grab it, and then we can read it all together. Oof, my hair. All right, here we go. Survival at 120 Above. Oh, I forgot. I wanted to mention our sheet, our learning sheet. So this is the on my own side. The Simpson Desert's full of amazing animals and adaptation skills that will help them survive the brutal heat. So you can fill in the chart below with details about what helps these animals, who all have fantastic names, don't you think, survive their extreme environments. So that's a cool thing to fill out, learn more about the animals. And then this is family time. You can enjoy the book together with either your family, friend, or myself, or yourself. And then the literacy tip of the day for this book is, the book starts with sunrise, goes all the way through the day and the night, and ends with sunrise again the next morning. Were you aware of this, maybe without realizing it while you were reading the book? Well, surprise, I just ruined that for you. So you can pay attention to that as we read the book and see as we go all the way through the day and the night and ending with sunrise the next morning. Interesting. So we can talk about how the illustrator used color and other things to communicate the time of day or night. Survival at 120 Above by Debbie S. Miller, illustrations by John Van Zyl. So here is the Simpson Desert. This is the Simpson Desert National Park, and this is the Simpson Desert Regional Reserve. And this whole thing is the Simpson Desert. And then this is here. Darwin, Alice Springs, Perth, Adelaide, Melbourne, Canberra, Sydney, Brisbane, Hobart. And there's the Simpson Desert National Park and Regional Reserve. And this is in the island of Australia. Survival at 120 Above. And this one says, to Chris, Bobby, Aaron, Nick, Anke, and Tony, and the wonderful team of scientists and volunteers from the April 2010 Simpson Desert trip. Cheers to 20 years of research. Wow, 20 years of research. And then the illustrator says, may children read and learn of the different places in the world. Cool. All right, yeah. As the night sky melts away, the Simpson Desert horizon glows like a campfire. Creaking voices of crickets grow faint. The dawn air is dry and warm. When the chiming wedgebill sings its 5-note song, time to get up now, time to get up now. A brilliant sun peaks above the longest parallel sand dunes in the world. Wow, didn't know that. As soft as powder, the stunning sand is the color of a red brick. In early days, people called this arid land the Great Ribbed Desert because of the long, wind-shaped dunes that finger across Australia for hundreds of miles, hundreds of kilometers. This vast, rippled desert bakes beneath a dome of a forever blue sky. Reptiles stir. A sand goanna swaggers into the bright sunshine from an underground burrow. His 2-foot, 61-centimeter long tail cuts S-turns into the velvety sand of the dune. A maze of black patterns decorates the tan skin of this large lizard. His camouflaged body blends in with the dry grasses of the spinifex. Many round humps of this needle-sharp grass cover the dunes. So this is spinifex. The goanna's forked tongue explores the ground, acting like a nose. The tongue discovers the scent and location of food or predators. A shiny emerald beetle scurries across the sand. Flicking his tongue, the goanna laps up a good meal of protein. Above him, a huge wedge-tailed eagle circles. The goanna detects the shadow of this predator with the tiny sensor eye on top of his head and immediately bolts into a clump of spinifex. By noon, the sand is blistering hot beneath a cloudless sky. The temperature rises to more than 120 degrees Fahrenheit, 50 degrees Celsius. For 7 years, the desert has faced a great drought, with only an occasional sprinkling of rain. Seeds lie dormant, lacking enough moisture to sprout. During this scorching time, the goanna moves to a grove of gidgee trees. I hope I'm pronouncing that right, gidgee. With barbed claws, he climbs a tree seeking shade and a breeze. Other reptiles tunnel beneath the sand to find cooler ground. Near the goanna, a mob of red kangaroos rests in the shade of trees. Some of the kangaroos lick their arms and paws to cool themselves. When a breeze drifts through the open woodland, moisture evaporates from their fur, which lowers their body temperature. The world's largest marsupial also has special hair that helps reflect sun's rays. Each shiny strand acts like a tiny mirror. So here's the red kangaroos. And here's the goanna. There we go. In the afternoon, a blustery wind signals a change in weather. Puffy clouds run across the sky with veils of rain streaming beneath them. These misty curtains of rain, known as virga, evaporate before reaching the ground due to rising heat. The scattered clouds bring cooler temperatures and a patchwork of shade to the red sand. At last, a few drops reach the ground, then some sprinkles. Suddenly, as though someone turned on a faucet, the light drizzle changes to pouring rain. Each drop finds a home on a grain of sand, a leathery leaf, or the fur of a kangaroo. Withered roots welcome the rain like a dry kitchen sponge. Now the desert is really wet. Parched creek beds turn into bubbling streams, fingering across the desert. Dry clay pans, wrinkled with cracks, turn into swamps. Patient fairy shrimp eggs hatch after baking in the dry clay for 7 long years. Oh, wow. So the shrimp eggs lay in the dry clay for 7 years before the rain hits them, and then they can... Triops erupt from this new source of life. These minnow-like crustaceans grow domed shells that look like tiny horseshoe crabs. Rainbow fish squiggle up the meandering creeks, migrating to new ponds. A whole bunch is happening when it rains, man. Bonk, 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 bonk. It sounds like someone is playing a distant bongo. Filling her throat pouch with air, a female emu makes a drumming sound as she strides across the open woodland. She smells water. There's the emu. This huge flightless bird looks like a grass hut walking on scaly stilts. Like an ostrich, her round body is stacked with feathers. Well adapted to the heat, her loose, open feathers allow air to pass through them. They shade and cool her body. As she moves toward the distant water, her giant 3-toed feet support her in the soft sand. While emus saunter across the dunes, herons, pelicans, and other water birds fly overhead. Sensing the distant rain, these birds fly hundreds of miles from the coast to feast on the explosion of life in the desert swamps. It is a mystery how these birds sense the rain, sometimes from 1,000 miles or 1,610 kilometers away. Wearing a spiny coat of armor, a thorny devil crawls slowly from his burrow. Only 8 inches, 20 centimeters long, this unique lizard looks like a miniature ankylosaurus dinosaur. The top of his body is completely covered with thorny spikes, protecting him from predators. Soon he discovers a highway of tiny black ants, his only food source. Thrusting out his sticky tongue, he devours the ants one by one. The thorny devil can eat as many as 3,000 ants in one day. Standing in a patch of wet sand, the thorny devil reveals his drinking secret. Through capillary action, this lizard can drink this water from his feet. The water moves upward along narrow grooves on the skin's surface from his toes, up his legs, to the corners of his mouth, similar to the way a plant drinks water from its roots. Wild. So he's drinking water right now through his feet. And they said that this is 8 inches long, so that's a little bit less than this page, than the length of this. That's how, it's pretty small. It's not that big. It's so crazy. A blue-tailed skink searches for a bright patch of sunshine. Darting across the sand, this striped lizard discovers a basking spot that offers a good lookout for possible predators. As the skink warms himself, a venomous western brown snake is slithering toward him. The well-camouflaged snake draws closer, curving through the grasses. Suddenly, the skink hears a rustling sound. Immediately, he begins waving his blue tail. It looks like the lizard is performing a hula dance. Attracted by the movement, the snake's head races forward. Her gaping mouth tries to bite the dancing tail. Instantly, the end of the lizard's tail breaks off, and the skink dashes away into the safety of the spinifex. The skink will grow a new tail, a special adaptation for survival. Some lizards lose and regrow their tails several times during their lives. There's a really cool book called Little Skink's Tale. If you ever get a chance to read it, that's a cool book. All about this little skink and her tail. As the sun slips below the horizon, a peach sky deepens to the shade of strawberries. The dunes begin to cool. An Australian raven closes the day with his moaning call. Ah, ah, ah. On cue, the voices of crickets loudly fill the air like thousands of castanets. Nocturnal animals grow restless in their burrows. A brush-tailed mulgara cautiously peeks out of an exit hole, sniffing the air. She smells the faint scent of a dingo, but no worries. The wild dog's tracks are several days old. The mulgara has sensitive black eyes designed for night vision. In the soft moonlight, this predator detects a sandy inland mouse. The quick mulgara scampers along the trail of tiny round footprints. Pounce! She snatches the mouse as he feeds on some dried seeds. No longer hungry, the mulgara returns to her burrow. This hamster-sized marsupial plays an important role in controlling rodents and keeping the diversity of desert life in balance. Little paw prints. Pockets of sand begin to move. Brown heads speckled with orange spots brush through the surface of the sand. After many dormant months of rest, known as estivation, desert spadefoot frogs explode from the ground. Near midnight, hundreds of these amphibians begin cooing for their mates near the edge of a pond. The chorus of frogs attracts other animals. White wings suddenly flash through the darkness. A spotted nightjar cuts swiftly through the air. He dives at a frog, attempting to snatch her from the ground. The warty frog quickly protects herself by secreting a milky liquid from her poison glands through the skin of her neck. When the nightjar bites the frog, this sticky white goo acts like glue. The goo cements the mouth of the nightjar so he can't eat the frog. She's a super glue frog. Cool. A frog that secretes a glue so that they can't eat them. It's amazing. Animals are amazing. The moon casts soft light on new seedlings that will turn dust bowls into lush carpets of plants. A mouse-sized Dunnart senses the new moisture. He scurries beyond the spinifex that shields him. Dashing quickly, he is watchful for mulgaras and other lurking predators. His ink-black beady eyes allow him to see clearly in the darkness. This nocturnal marsupial also has a keen sense of smell. The Dunnart knows the scent of rain-soaked ground means there will be more plants and many invertebrates to feed on. Tracing the scent, the Dunnart zigzags through the maze of spinifex, scurrying mile after mile to reach the swamp area. Along the way, he spots the sparkling eyes of a hefty spider. He races past an emu bush and catches this midnight snack. The Dunnart absorbs enough water from spiders and other prey so that he can survive without drinking water. Oh, so he doesn't need to drink water. He gets all the water that he needs just from what he eats. Through the night, he journeys. His tiny feet become swollen and blistered. By the time the Dunnart reaches the swamp, he will have traveled nearly 2 miles, 3.2 kilometers, during one night. Given the Dunnart's short 1 inch, 2.5 centimeter stride, this distance would be the equivalent of a human walking 20 miles in one night, or 32.2 kilometers in one night. Sweet Lord. That's a long distance, my friends. Whew. Let's see how to pronounce this. Ningawi. A Ningawi stirs. She feels the cool night air and leaves her underground home. This thumb-sized creature, one of the smallest marsupials, weighs as little as 6 paper clips. What? Dashing between the spinifex, her tiny cone-shaped head and flattened ears allow her to squeeze through thick clumps of grasses as she hunts for beetles and spiders. The sound of a running animal startles her. She spots the fleeing shadow of a dog-like creature. The panting dingo is chasing a large feral house cat. Sand flying, the sleek cat races through the obstacle course of spinifex. While the dingo is a larger animal, the wild cat is quick and nimble. He slips away, springing over bushes, escaping over the crest of a dune. The Ningawi is lucky. Feral cats are fierce predators, feeding on many small marsupials and reptiles. The dingo helps control cats and other feral animals so that native species such as Ningawi and mulgara can survive. While the thorny devil and sand goanna rest in their burrows, a spinifex hopping mouse scurries through a network of underground tunnels. The mouse cautiously peeks outside and then dashes toward a clump of dead grasses that camouflage him. This nocturnal mouse hops across moon shadows, his long feathery tail arching behind him. Sniffing the cool red sand, he finds spinifex seeds. Like many other desert animals, this well-adapted mouse can take enough liquid from his food to survive without drinking water. As night fades away, a bubuk owl suddenly dives from her perch toward the mouse. The cautious mouse reacts immediately to the faint shadow of this predator. There's the shadow. Springing off his strong hind legs, he leaps to the shelter of the spinifex. At dawn, red kangaroos feed on fresh green shoots. They are most active during dusk and dawn when the temperatures are cooler. Creatures that like the twilight are crepuscular animals. Interesting. As one mother kangaroo grazes, her Joey listens to a pair of Australian magpies singing their beautiful duet. Joining the magpies is a loud chorus of cooing frogs and creaking crickets. Beyond the kangaroos, a lone camel plods over the dune, leaving plate-sized tracks in the sand. This one-humped dromedary camel can live for months without water. Yet, he smells the rain-fed swamp and marches toward it. Like other desert animals and plants, the camel will thrive on the gift of rain. The desert is a sea of green and red in the early morning light. Like cresting waves, the dunes rise and fall above green swales and newly formed swamps. The endless ridges of red sand create a land similar to the wavy texture of corduroy. The emus discover a swamp after traveling many miles. They kneel in the shallow water, splashing themselves with their stubby wings. Surrounding them are white-necked herons, avocets, and pink-eared ducks. These birds are feasting on the fairy shrimp, triops, and other aquatic invertebrates. The long 7-year drought is over. For a short time, life will flourish in this vast and beautiful land of red. The end. And then here's the author's note. There's the author. Whoops. She's in her hand, she's got that thorny, oh gosh, what was that thing called? Gotta go back and look it up. Here it is. Thorny devil. She's got that in her hand. You can see it. Can you see it? Whoops. Here it is. Wild. Okay, let's see what she has to say. Author's note. Traveling to Australia's Simpson Desert was an adventure of a lifetime. I was fortunate to camp at a research site in this remote desert with a wonderful team of scientists from the University of Sydney. For 3 weeks, we explored this hot subtropical desert, which has the longest parallel sand dunes in the world. This stunning world of red sand exploded with life because of recent rains and the end of a 7-year drought. Each day we arose before dawn so we could study the animals during the cool part of the morning. Like many of the marsupials and reptiles, we rested in the shade when the scorching afternoon temperatures would climb above 100 degrees Fahrenheit, 38 degrees Celsius. On my first day in the desert, we saw the amazing thorny devil lizard, its scaly body covered with spikes. This fascinating creature looked like a miniature dinosaur, and I got to hold it in the palm of my hand. That's so cool. During our studies, I helped hold, measure, and release many of the desert's well-adapted marsupials, lizards, skinks, and frogs. We watched out for dangerous snakes, scorpions, and centipedes. Each animal featured in this book, I studied with my own eyes and described it in my journal. I asked the scientists many questions and took photographs so that John Van Zyl could create the beautiful, realistic illustrations. Life in the desert was very different from life on the Arctic tundra near my home in Alaska. Yet, the desert and Arctic animals have similar adaptations to survive in these two harsh environments. For example, the wood frog described in our book, Survival at 40 Below, freezes solid during its winter hibernation in Alaska. And Australia's desert spadefoot frog can be dormant under the sand for years during times of drought. Seeing these frogs pop out of the sand after the rain was magical. And then here we have a glossary, and in the glossary are all of the, not all, but many of the definitions of these specific words that we were talking about in this book that are very scientific. And there's a glossary, and a glossary is like a fancy word for like dictionary, but a dictionary with just the words that are specific to this book that you might not have heard before. And then this talks about record high and low temperatures. Australia is experiencing rapid climate change related to global warming. Temperatures have risen on an average of nearly 2 degrees Fahrenheit since the middle of the 20th century. There are more heat waves and fewer days of frost and cold temperatures. About 70% of Australia is arid, semi-arid, or desert. This chart, courtesy of the University of Sydney, shows the record high and low temperatures for the Simpson Desert at Ethabuka, Queensland, near our research camp. The highest temperature ever recorded in Australia is 123.3 degrees Fahrenheit, or 50.7 degrees Celsius at Oodnadatta, South Australia, on January 2nd, 1960. So this shows the months of the year: January, February, March, April, May, etc. And then in Fahrenheit and Celsius. And then it shows the temperatures. And this one shows the record high and the record low. So this one seems like this is the record high temperatures, and this is the record low temperatures for the desert. Further sources for reading and surfing. So if you want to learn more about Australia's deserts or wildlife or desert animals, you can read more about deserts in general, or if you're specific about this desert or the deserts in Australia, you can read these books. And you can also go here to hear the voices of the Australian desert animals that are in this book. Oh, so that might be kind of cool to go here. And you can hear all the sounds that the animals make. That's cool. Then here we are again, showing the same map that we looked at before in the beginning of the story. The end. So tell me, did you like this book? Give it a thumbs up. Like and subscribe. And then leave your comments. And leave your opinion in the comments below. And I'll see you when we read our next story. Happy reading. Have a great day.